We sincerely appreciate you for joining us this beautiful afternoon on the program Flipside. My name is Daisy Leo Asikidi, and today we're going to be talking about bullying. Now, everyone has been talking about rape for some time now because that's something recent and it's trending. There are several people coming out on social media complaining about the fact that they've been raped by even some of the celebrities y'all look up to. And while some are speaking out, there are some other people, maybe they form their own club, doing all they can to hush them, bully them, talk them down, make them feel bad about themselves. They're giving reasons why the situations happen to them. Apart from rape, there are other situations, other things that happen and you feel bullied. When we talk about bullying, it's not always about children. I know men and learned people just hear bullying and they think about secondary school teenagers. Bullying can actually start from as little as primary school children to secondary school children and even to adults. Your boss in the office could be bullying you. The Nigerian police force could be bullying you. Your friend or the person you calling your friend could just be a bully and you don't know, or you're even encouraging the person one way or another. Well, today we will be talking about bullying, an epidemic no one talks about. Bullying, an epidemic no one talks about. I will go on a break. When I come back from that break, you will meet my guests and we'll get talking. All right, thank you so much for staying with us. You can actually just hook up right now on all of our social media platforms. You saw the advert. And for all those who want to have more information, you can follow me on my social media accounts. You can follow me on Instagram at Daisy Reach and on Facebook, Daisy Osato. Okay? Back to what we're talking about, bullying, the epidemic no one talks about. I have a guest here who you've seen several times on Flipside. He's a safety and health expert, a trainer as well, and he's also a youth whom, by the way, we're the most affected in this situation. I have Ogenete Jiri Owigo with me
It's a
today.
pleasure being here as always.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so when we talk about bullying, I know many people just think about some sets of children where the bigger child is beating a smaller child, eating his snacks, and that's bullying for them. But what exactly is bullying?
Okay, so bullying is any situation that involves intimidating a person to action. Sometimes you can also construe bullying to be repeated coercion. So in any instance where you need to get a person, in any instance where you need to get a person to act, usually repeated situations of forcing the person to do a thing, then we can say that you're bullying that person in that instance. So intimidation is one key word. So you're using your position of privilege, your position of advantage over a person with whom you think you have. So it could be, you could be a person who is less in terms of maybe finance, in terms of placement, but by your unique placement, you're using that against another person. That's one aspect. Then the repeated coercion. So intimidating, repeated coercion. So you're intimidating the person and then you're repeating the coercion against another person because you want them to do something that favors you more than it favors them. I think ultimately when you put all of those elements together, you have bullying.
Why exactly do we have people who bully? In a society where we spend a lot of time talking about how people should be good children, we have religious activities very high here in Nigeria. It's either you're Christian, you're Muslim, or you're serving an idol, and we do it diligently. Sometimes we combine all three. Yeah.
True.
And so, why do we still have bullies? Why do people bully? I don't want to have a child who turns out to be a bully, or even a child who is bullied. Which one is even worse? I don't know.
Okay, so the reality is a lot of persons don't want to agree to the reality. And as you rightly captioned it, it's an epidemic because most persons, I think I dare say it's a pandemic really because it's not just a Nigerian thing, it happens everywhere in the world. In fact, Just last night, I remember seeing a program that talked extensively about the social psychological effects of bullying, especially with cyberbullying as a dessert to that topic. People will be people. As simple as that is, there's something that happens to people when people get together, right? People want to have fun. Now, your definition of fun, your definition of pleasure, your definition of enjoyment is what makes the conversation. For example, you see a person who looks a certain way, right? And it's funny to you, but you don't understand how it feels from the other person's perspective. And then you get your friends together and you laugh at that person. It's just mockery when you look at it on the surface. But when you begin to have that instance of repeated behavior, right, and then it affects the mentality of the person who's subject of that joke, and then you begin to take out, get the person to do things that they would not like to do. You force the person to cut class. You force the person, to do. You probably get to the point where you have to even beat the person. All of these factors will characterize bullying. So there's a thin line between what you call harmless jesting to where you now have bullying. So certain persons don't realize that they are bullies, but when the thing you do, the thing you find to be fun begins to adversely affect another person, especially their social psychological makeup, it becomes a problem. Then again, there are persons who have self-esteem issues, right? And because of their esteem issues, they feel if they drag everybody down, they will feel better about themselves. So there's that instance. So you have never felt like you deserve anything. You have never felt like you're a hero, even though you want to be a hero. You want to have all of the attention of the world appreciating you. So you see a situation where a person just makes a harmless mistake. Everybody makes mistake after all. So you want to kill that person on it. So you seem like you're the one who has saved everybody. So there are persons who do extreme things just because they want to feel good about themselves. So that's another instance. Then again, there's also the category of persons who are afraid. Now, you're afraid of change, for instance. You're afraid of a person doing exceedingly well. You are afraid of being seen to be afraid. So that fear, I think if we even go biblically, that would be one of the things that happened to Judas Iscariot and Peter too. Peter was afraid of how people would say when they say, you're the one with, exactly. So he was afraid of that instance, so it made him do things. So in other persons, it manifests the same way. So you are afraid of being called a coward. You're afraid of being told that you can't do X, Y, Z. So because of that, you lash out on everybody else. You begin to manifest certain sort of behavioral patterns, with other people. So these things come to play. And they are all of the classical presentations and more, by the way. So they are more of the reasons why we are seeing more bullies. And it's worse because the power of rationalization is strong. So a lot of people are bullies, but they do not realize that they are bullies. So it's a circle. And then, of course, the kind of friends you have, peer pressure too is another factor. So your friends dare you. You can't do this. Now, in which case, sometimes the joke is on you because you don't realize that your friends are not like that, but they are having their own fun. So they think the idea of having fun is to tell you cannot do a certain thing. And then because you have this strong desire to fit in and be seen as a macho man, you get together with them and you begin to do the things that they have pressured you into doing. So at the end of the day, you are doing things that your friends cannot do. And at the end of the day, because you have done it, it becomes a norm. So at the end of the day, you look at it and you realize that bullying is a circle, right? So the society has its effects, expectations and all of that, the company we keep, and then the way we think in our head too. So there's a psychological perspective to bullying. So all of these factors come to play in the making of a bully.
Okay, I would want to know how we can identify someone who's being bullied, even adults too. I recently saw 2 movies. One is a series, the other is just the regular movie.
Sure.
The first one was, the regular movie is titled Little.
Okay.
It's a comedy. It's really fun. You laugh, but the
so
message is...
did you laugh at the point where a person was being bullied?
Yeah, it was okay. Now that's the problem. When I was done laughing and everything, I'm like, but this is actually a big
Bullying.
issue.
Exactly.
The movie was about a little girl who was bullied as a little girl, and she got bullied, and she was so bent on proving a point, in a bid to prove a point that she was better than what people said she was. She was a geek. She had those glasses on like you and all that stuff.
Like me, so she does I'm being bullied.
No, but she was wearing glasses, and
Okay.
she was black. She was a black kid. So
Okay.
that was also one of the reasons why she was bullied. And one day she overdid something to prove a point, and she broke her hand. Her parents had to rush her to the hospital, and she had to ask her dad, like, why am I going through all this? Why can't they just like me for who I am?
Yeah.
Why do I have to be extra to prove a point? And even when I do, they still look for a loophole to
hold
mock
on to,
me.
yeah.
The mom said it's because you give them attention, just ignore them, which is what most parents do. Give them the left cheek. If they slap you on the right cheek, turn the left cheek, they'll get tired. They never do get tired. And the dad was, when you grow big, you're going to be so successful, everyone who bullied you is going to come crawling. And that thing stuck to her head. She became a bookworm, like she became more into academics, and eventually she graduated and told herself she's going to start bullying people before they bully her.
Wow.
She became a very rich boss, but she was a big bully.
Okay.
And there was a twist in the movie. Magically, she lost. One day she became a small girl again, had to go to school to the very day,
relive all her life again.
and all that. It was a very funny movie. But the recent one I just saw is Working Moms, a series.
Okay.
There was a particular teenager who was being bullied, one of the working mom's daughters. The mother, they never knew the child was being bullied.
Okay.
She was still looking like the regular kid at home until she searched for an information with her mother's laptop. And when the mom turned on the laptop and saw this information, she had to call the daughter, are you being bullied?
Exactly.
Of course she denied. And then the teenagers came to their house and wrote things on the wall, and so they knew, and the mother decided to move away from that state just to build her daughter's confidence. Well, how do we know? Sometimes it's so difficult to spot it that this person is being bullied, and we want to be able to help. So how do we know someone is being bullied?
Okay, so for the most part, it's something that a lot of people take for granted, but the role of communication in life and in development, personal development and interrelationship, it cannot be overemphasized. And I'll tell you why. It's difficult to know a person who doesn't communicate, right? And it's difficult to be known if you will not communicate. So it works both ways. A person needs to take time to understand who they're dealing with, and then you have to also ensure that you are giving off enough information for persons to understand you. Now, as far as I know, bullying starts early in life for the most part, and bulk of the effect is what manifests in later adult life. And I think there's a research done by E.O. Ogbogodo and co. It put it at 78% for Nigeria. So I think the sample was done for most persons from, I think the mean age was like 14 years, right? And if I'm not mistaken, the sample looked at about 700 persons. Now, the research showed that 78% of persons in this category have been bullied and have experienced some levels of bullying. So when you look at that statistics and look at how many of them will make it into later adult life and the psychological effect it has on them, you'd realize that it's widespread. So the question is, do we realize first that we're being bullied? That's the first thing. And then again, if it's something that is happening when you're young, what are the options open to you? Because if I'm being bullied in nursery school, chances are I may not realize that I'm being bullied. I may just realize that there's a situation I don't like. For example, there's a popular guy in nursery school. It happens. There's a popular person in nursery or primary school that everybody plays with, but does not let me play with him. There's a psychological implication is going to live on that child, because you find out that the child begins to beg to be allowed to play. So that child already early enough is seeking the approval of somebody else to do something that they naturally should not seek approval for. They are kids, they should all play together. So if that persists for long enough, the child will grow up with that need to always be allowed in. So you find out that that child will turn out to be a people pleaser. You want to please people because you want to be allowed. That's on the one hand. Then again, the child may be that person who does things because they want the attention, so everybody will come to them. So these traits in human behavior start early enough from infancy. Now, when these things begin to manifest in maybe secondary school, the question is, are parents who are busy trying to make ends meet, do they pay enough attention to their kids to know what their children are like? Do they know their traits? Do they know when these warning signs are on display to realize that something isn't right with my child, something is going on? So these are factors. So for the most part, one of the strongest indicators that the person is being bullied is behavioral change, right? So you have a child who likes to go to school and then probably is faking illness suddenly. They don't want to go to school. There's a reason why. I'm a strong believer in the fact that humans are not instinctive by nature. We are creatures of habit. So there's always a reason why we're doing what we're doing. We may not always realize, but there's always a reason. So sometimes it takes a person to nudge, to make us realize that there's something going on. So for bullying that happens early enough in childhood, the parents particularly need to pay attention to their children for behavioral changes. And for your child to even let you know, it means that the communication must have been established. So your child needs to feel confident enough to let you know that something is wrong. And that way, you can know what next step to take. For instance, do you draw the attention of a teacher in school? Do you take some other more practical measures to give your child more confidence? Or in the case of the movie you saw, they relocated, and it gives the child a fresh start, in which case the parent has to be guiding this child such that they don't make the same mistakes that they've been making over time. So that's another factor. But then again, even in adult life, a lot of people are getting bullied, but they don't realize. For instance, you work in the private sector and your job description is clear from when you got employed. But to a very, very large extent, persons do not think, your employer does not think that these things factor. Your job description is just words on paper. So they feel they can send you errands, go and pick my child from school, whereas you're supposed to be a company lawyer, for example. So you're now running errands because after all, I'm paying you. So go and help me cook soup in my house because, I'm busy, So things like that. And if you want to complain, because obviously you don't like it, they tell you, I'm the one who pays your salary. So things like that are subtle ways adults are getting bullied. Let's not forget that people are getting bullied even in their marriage or with their partners. So it touches on all spheres of life. But then again, there's a good chance that the childhood bullying that they have experienced when they were much younger could be laying the groundwork for further bullying in adult life. So there's a chain reaction to it. So what the parents fail to correct when they are young and growing up, it falls to somebody else to correct. So it calls into question the kind of friends we have, the kind of company we keep. Because persons need to help you realize that there are levels to living life, there are levels to what you should accept and what you shouldn't accept. So when your friends tell you what your employer is doing is wrong, for example, what your partner is doing is wrong, it calls to realization. But if in the circle you're living, all your friends are getting abused the same way, there's a chance that you all think that is normal. So not until you go far and wide would you realize that, okay, this thing should not be happening. And then you might begin to look for practical ways on what should be obtainable and how you can get that settled.
Okay, and this is going to be my last question on the show. Still using the movie I saw, the teenage girl, when she was being bullied, they told she went to see her mom is actually a psychiatrist.
Okay.
So they took her and told her, these are some of the words, they bully her in school, then they also go to her social media space and put things there.
Cyberbullying.
So they were reading out the comments put there, and they tell her, say what comes to mind when you hear this. So yes, she was supposed to say something more hurtful. than what the person has said to herself. So the person says you have a very ugly hair. You're supposed to say the person's hair is worse, or say something also bad about the person, point out something so you don't begin to allow yourself feel like everything about you is bad. They also have some bad points. But the truth is, I personally had a problem with that method.
As do I.
Yeah. So how can we actually deal with bullies without becoming dogs ourselves?
Okay, so it's a matter of building resilience, because I remember something that used to be said growing up: if they beat you, beat them back. If they slap you, slap them back. It's something we teach our kids. Now the idea is we're teaching our children at that point to stand up for themselves. But not every situation can be solved with violence, and we're teaching non-violent approaches to things in modern day times. The reality is we want to first build confidence in our kids, right? If your child is confident in themselves, it's difficult to tell a person who feels that they are fine, that they are ugly, even when they are ugly, right? If a person does not feel that they have a defect, it's hard to make them feel they have a defect. So not until someone goes to extra effort to let them feel that they're inadequate would they realize that maybe I have an inadequacy. So from the home front, we want to instill confidence in our kids and teach them to be nice. So I'm nice not because I have to be nice. I'm nice because that's the kind of person I am. So a person tells me I am ugly, I should realize that someone is going to love me for who I am. Do you understand? So if I look well in the mirror enough, I'm going to see some beauty in myself. So whatever value we teach our children from home, it forms the bedrock of their psychology. How do you think? So it is that psychology that they're going to use to take on the world, to face the bullies that they get, because we never know the approaches that these bullies are going to take. We never know much of what the children are going to encounter when they go out and leave the house. So to a very, very large extent, we want to build that resilience from the house such that when they go out, they do not start ricocheting the things that people throw at them. Instead, they have their own confidence to rely on, not necessarily to become recluse, so to speak. So because the world is against you, you now hide into some shell somewhere where you can't face the world. You need to be able to stand tall in spite of what's going on around you. So when a person is focused on where it is that they're going, I don't think all of these side talks will deter them.
Okay, I want to say thank you for being my guest today.
Pleasure.
I've enjoyed the show. Oh, I might not have children of my own yet, but I have nieces and nephews that are growing up, and I'm going to also use this medium to talk to parents out there. Yeah, it's not a children thing only. Adults too also get bullied, but let's just talk about children still in school. You're teenagers, so some group of boys come together and say your teenage girl is a prostitute, she's cheap, maybe because she mistakenly gave one of the guys a peck, and then they hammer on it and they all begin to lie that they've slept with her and they've done that. She begins to feel uncomfortable and you hear it. Now that's not the time to turn the other cheek. I think you should march to the school and seek justice. That child, whoever started that gossip, needs to be dealt with. And then I think we also need to build friendship. Let our children build friendship. They should have friends, good friends, with your supervision, of course, when you're all alone. Most people who are bullied are loners. They're like hermit crabs. They're always by themselves, nobody to talk to. And eventually all of this leads to suicide and even other problems in our society. Bullying is a big problem, and I don't think this is going to be the only time I will be talking about this. We'll be back here again to talk about bullying, and maybe this time we'll get a lawyer to look at the legal angles we can take to deal with bullies. I'm Daisy Leo Asikidi, and I want to say thanks for watching. You can get the videos of Flipside's previous editions and even this one today on YouTube. Bye.